Hello and welcome back to another round of madness. We are back with another race of 1990. This time the German Grand Prix in Hockenheim. 45 laps. It's gonna be interesting for sure. And as you can see, we're missing Silverstone. The sole reason for that is that I didn't make it out of pre-quali. So I just time accelerated the entire race of that, since obviously no point in streaming something where I'm not taking part in. But I'm gonna give you the results of that race just in a couple of seconds, and then we'll see what we can expect from this one. So Silverstone PK won the race after another double DNF by McLaren, while they were pretty much dominating the race. Usual gearbox and suspension issues as in most of the previous races, so McLaren so far has a terrible season. Nakajima with the Tyrrell finished second, Nannini third, Prost fourth, Martini fifth, and Boutsen was sixth. Thus, these were the point scoring positions. And because of that, Prost is still leading the championship with 30 points. However, Piquet is closing the gap right behind him, 26 points. Patrese at third on 15 points. Nannini behind him on 14 points. Berger on 13. Mansell on 12. Gasho still on 11. That Phoenix win helped him big time. Senna on 9 points, Wojtek 8, Nakajima 8, De Cesaris 4, Capelli 4, Alio 3, myself 3, Piro 3 points, Suzuki 2 points, Modena 2 points, Martini 2 points, and then Alesi, Caffey, Donnelly, David Brabham, Gugelmin, and Boutsen all sitting on a 1 point. So quite a few drivers managed to score some points already in the season. And the constructor standing, Ferrari is leading with 42 points. Benetton very close with 40 points. And then there's a huge gap. McLaren is third with 22 points. Behind them, Williams with 16 points. Coloni with 11 points. Tyrrell on 9. Onyx on 8. Dallara on 7. Leighton, House or March on 5 points. Ligier, Eurobrun, and Brabham on 3 points. Larus and Minardi on 2 points, and Footwork and Lotus on 1 point each. So, today's race, 45 laps, Hockenheim, the 1990 layout, and I managed to get this car with the Judd engine out of pre-qualifying, although barely, and then qualify on P19, which isn't good, but it's probably the best that I could get out of this car. And right behind me or next to me on the grid there will be Modena in the other Judd engine car, and then the March with the other Judd engine is on P22. So as you can see, our engine isn't the strongest, and I'm not expecting to last honestly more than a couple corners. AI is very aggressive for some reason on this track, even with lowered aggression. And the track itself is quite narrow, and we got 26 drivers with quite big differences in car performance, which means that there's gonna be a huge chaos, especially in the first, let's say, 2-3 laps. and honestly, I'm not expecting to last that long, so we'll probably be just broadcasting another race, and we also expect pretty big attrition, not only because of the possible accidents that we'll have, but also because of the engines. Like Judd, I don't think any of us will make it to the end. Some of these guys like Tyrrell, Ligier, Osella, don't think they will make it too far either. But that remains to be seen. So without further ado, let's see how this is going to go and let's do some racing. Here we go. Already getting rear-ended multiple times by multiple drivers. Good. Also lost positions. As you can see, the guys ahead are having quite a bit of a tussle. I'm having a bit of a speed advantage over them, which doesn't help me at all. Trying to take it easy. Well, that didn't go to plan. Illegal overtake. Well, it is what it is. Main thing is that nobody crashed out yet, and I'm losing position just as expected. Got a footwork behind me that's probably Cafe, which usually is an instant danger. As for some reason his aggression is super high, and he just basically shoves me off the track. Very kind of them. Actually having PTSD from meeting footworks on track because they somehow like to take me out. Try to go past the Minardi, already yellow flag, somebody is up in the grass. That's 2 cars in the grass. Whoa, what are you doing, mate? Rejoining like an absolute madman.
All right, that was a 2:09.32.
Driving without a front wing, which is going to be interesting. He's going to have a massive overspeed in the straight, especially if he gets the slipstream off of me. Then to be 22 at the moment. I would have crashed into him if I stayed on the track. Slowed down a little too much for what I was expecting from this distance. Honestly, wasn't even expecting to catch up to them. Definitely not going too well so far. I'm trying to play it safe until the field spreads out a little bit. And so far that's not really happening. For some reason my car is absolutely undrivable. And Where's the torque? Should have just turned the car. So I have no damage, but the car just won't turn. And the brakes don't do nothing either. But that's something I know that happens all the time. So I'm just gonna settle in and do a Sunday drive. Not much else I can do.
All right,
so
that was
guys
a
without front wing never went into the pits,
207.54.
which is a very interesting way to handle a lost front wing. Hello. But it is what it is. At least I'm safe from being crashed into. And as they keep doing this to each other, I might get a few free positions. At least I survived the first 2 laps of the madness, one way or another. Not really how I planned it to go. Whoa. Suspension might be still a little too stiff. And since I have no top speed whatsoever, it's gonna be a hard ask to catch the guys. But hey, it's Eurobrune and it's on the grid, so what more do we want? And it's been on the grid almost every race so far, except for Silverstone, so I guess we did alright. Very smart move.
All right, that was a 157.78.
So Suzuki finally got into the pits with his lost front wing. That's something. Well, at this point I think I'll just let the attrition take care of things. Yeah, so if you check my other streams, then there is another series that I'm doing on Automobilista 1. But honestly, I prefer rFactor because the AI needs quite a lot of tweaking in AMS to make it work properly. And even after tweaks, it's just way too aggressive. But I basically converted a 1970 mod into it and playing kind of my team career mode on it. Working brakes would be a pleasure. Currently I have 3 series running. One is this one, 1990. I'm doing this on my own. The other one is 1970, which is basically tracking for my own team. And then we have a 1980, which I'm doing with a friend. And the 2 of us are driving for ATS. You can check them out. They're all live. 1970 began as a video series. I'm going to spin. Oh, somehow I saved it. think somebody is out of the race. That's a Minardi. Maria out of the race. I feel safe now. That's all I wanted. I just want to finish this race. Don't care where I finish.
That was a 1:59.32.
I feel like I'm getting closer to Capelli, at least on the minimap, but meanwhile it shows that I'm losing time to him. So, not sure what's happening. No, I'm not gonna risk it. I just got through here. Either I brake too early or too late. Just can't get it right. And somehow I've got Bernard behind me. No idea how that happened. 1:40. It's really, really far behind. I think he was one of the few that got caught up in some kind of tussle. It's kind of understandable as quite a few of the faster midfield cars qualified low, and that's just basically inviting trouble if there are huge speed differences. Yellow flag again, so something happened. Yeah, that's Piro out of the race. That's a longer message. New to yeah, so while I'm explaining this, I'm going to stop the game. So basically the way I do career mode, so as I said earlier, I converted an rFactor mode to Automobilista, but you can actually find
1:50.77.
quite a few good mods without having to go through the trouble. And the way I do it, I do single races. I check out information on the IRL races. Obviously, you can customize your calendar the way you want it. So in 1970 specifically, I prefer to use the actual grid, which means that in most races, only the drivers take part that were there on the rear race. Then set everything up. So 100% races, as you see, because I like that. And as much realism as possible in terms of assists and everything else. And then I just do a quali off camera and some practice, of course, do a setup. And then after quali, I just hop on and race. And then it just happens what happens, and then I keep track of the points. for 1971, I plan to make it a little bit more detailed in terms of budget, staffing, expanding to a two-car operation and such. That's basically things that you mod into the game, like a second car for your potential teammate, because we're gonna have Yura in that series as well, not only in 1980. So he will be my teammate in my team in 1971.
All right, that was a 159.79.
Also, sometimes you need to adjust AI difficulty because that usually varies from track to track. So sometimes you put it to 105% and it will absolutely destroy you. Sometimes you put it on 115 or 120 and you'll still be much faster. So you need to do a couple of test runs on each track to see how competitive the AI is and how much you need to change. Also for AMS specifically, I highly recommend to use a low AI aggression, because if you keep it high, it tends to be very crazy, especially in the first couple corners. And in general, what I found with AMS mods, especially if you're into like modern Formula One, then you need to play around with it quite a lot to make it work. Unless it's just a reskin of one of the default series in game. Obviously, those are based on Formula series as well. So skin mods exist that change the cars to the real ones. But with actual mods or conversions, as many of the mods are actually rFactor conversions, you have to play around a bit, as the AI tends to do some interesting things. However, I found that for like vintage kind of driving, like 50s, 60s, 70s kind of Formula One, the AI is
All right, that was a
except from the
157.94.
overly aggressive. But that's not something you can really avoid. There are lots of car mods for automobilists and would really like to have F1 2014. Yeah, so for Formula One, that's after 2010. I think quite a lot of the WCP mods from rFactor have been converted, and they are usually pretty good. Like they have working DRS at least. Perhaps some even have working curse, but I don't know that because I haven't really played much with them. I've been in a league where we ran 2012 on AMS. It was a pretty nice experience. So yeah, there are definitely mods for that. Also, at some point, I might do the tutorial on how you can convert mods from rFactor, as it's not really difficult and there are tools that help you with it. So ultimately, why did my game pause itself? That was interesting. So there are lots of options to play Formula One, but ultimately I think for EMS it's really made for touring or endurance racing. That's just judging by the way the
All right,
usually
that was
behaves.
a 158.59.
But but you have lots of options if you want to play Formula 1. Just need to play around with various settings to see what works for you and what works best. As I said, I do that before every race. And I'm cutting the chicane again. Whoa! And I'm getting lapped. Here we have again Ferrari dominance. Go mate, go, go, go. I'm gonna live for you. You too. Just leave me alone. And there comes a McLaren. He's gonna brake super early so he can get past. So that's currently 2 Ferraris in the lead, followed by a McLaren. And that's a 4th place for McLaren as well. No, 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 don't take me out. You did that in Imola. Not now. Go, go, go. Don't slow down this much. But I'm letting you go. So I lost heaps of time with this. And I think that's a Williams.
That was a 2:01.10.
Yep, that's a Williams. Go mate, go, go, go. Well, it is what it is. Most people that this is for are usually still asleep or busy with something else at this time. And most people that usually end up watching these are people that drive in some leagues with me, which is usually the same couple of people every time. So this race is an absolute disaster so far, but nothing short of what I expected it to be. At least I still have an undamaged car, which was kind of a smart move. And well, it's just Eurogroup, so no miracles are expected unless the attrition starts kicking in. And I'm basically playing for that. Alio is out
That was
of the race.
a 2:00.51.
So that's the attrition going. For now, absolutely in my favor. So I hope the engine can take it. So far, it seems to be no overheating or anything, so that's kind of good, I guess. Yeah, so temps look perfectly fine so far. this as the clear difference between the cars, especially on a power trip like this. But I think I'm kind of catching up to Donnelly. Beating a Lotus would be nice. Yep, that's Donnelly in the pits.
That was a 157.47.
And I got some time back on the guys ahead. Wow, so much about that. At some point I might be able to catch the chase at this. Or possibly not.
That was a 156.96.
Maybe I should start pushing a wee bit. And that's PK Ornament coming to lap me. Already blue flags. Thank you. It's not really the most ideal place to do this. Here you go, 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 and the other one as well. Come on, push. I left him all the space, he still went onto the grass. Yeah, alright. Oh, when I get to it, I definitely do it. As I said, there are tools that basically do most of the work for you, and you just basically need to double check if everything is correct. And then sometimes you basically just need to manually adjust a couple things. As even though the file structure of the game is the same, since obviously it's on the same engine as rFactor. There are some differences, and certain things may not convert perfectly. And then of course the
All right, that was a 201. 1.55.
Just manual is like AI talent files if you play against AI. If you do league racing, then you don't even need that. And track conversions can be really tricky because sometimes the AIB, basically the file that contains all the AI information, what the AI does, how the AI behaves on it, turns into a mess, which can mean some very interesting track limit interpretations. And that's something more difficult to fix that. I usually have a friend who helps me with that because even I don't know that. I feel like I'm in RD in the 2000s now. Everyone just holds him fast. It is what it is. The car simply doesn't have the power.
That was a 2:01.07.
Of much use on this track. Historically, it shouldn't even be here. Yet we somehow still are. So just by making it to the grid is an achievement for a car of this caliber. But we have until round 14 with this. We'll see what happens after. So obviously we try to follow history. So the team will collapse when it does, because the mod is following the actual history as well, which is actually a pretty nice touch that I really enjoy in these mods.
That was a 1:57.17.
I'm up to P18 and I've got Capelli behind me, and I have absolutely no explanation how or when that happened. But I'm already a position ahead from where I started, so. And the brakes doesn't stop the car again. Just go through. It would be so nice to have brakes that actually work. Or rather, a car that actually works would be even better. A couple is somewhere there. We're only 4.7 seconds behind.
All right, that was a 1:54.73.
So that's 17 laps done. We're more than 1/3 of the race. Hopefully I can keep this for 4.5 seconds to Capelli. And in ditches, this is just pulling away. I'm not going to catch him unless something happens. That was a very early braking.
All right, that was a 1:56.45.
I actually might do another stream today as a team is going to take part in a race in Assetto Corsa. Well, not everyone from the team, but 2 of us. I'm probably going to stream that in the afternoon, just for the shits and giggles, and because the members of the team that are not gonna be there asked me to do so they can actually see what happens. And I'm also quite curious what's gonna happen in that race.
All right, that was a 1:55.43.
And both Capelli and me are about to be lapped the second time pretty soon. either test lap or the next one. And Cafe is out of the race. What a surprise. As I said, I'm afraid of that guy. He cost me a few races and results already, so I actually can't remember if he was actually that aggressive of a driver. In fact, just from the top of my head, I can't even really recall anything significant regarding him. And I'm usually pretty good at 90s F1 history. Well, any F1 history to be fair. So that's me up to P17. Purely on merit. Absolutely not. I think Kapali might be out as well, or just slowed down very much.
That was a 1:55.87.
rFactor is older than me, but I prefer it to modern F1 games made by EA. Yeah, I can absolutely agree to that. Lots of us actually prefer the old games like rFactor or GP4 as a matter of fact, which a couple of streams ago I said it's still, if you can get it working on a modern hardware, it's usually quite a difficult process but not impossible. Then it's still the best F1 experience out there. I think I did that while actually streaming GP4. Gonna continue with that at some point, but that's probably just gonna be some mod showcase, what mods are available for it. As most of them work fine and are also really good. Okay, mate, go. But yeah, I can absolutely understand everyone that prefers games like rFactor, AMS, or pretty much anything else above the EA F1 games, though even that series had a few very good games. I really enjoyed 2012. That's been a pretty fun game. And
that was a 1:58.76.
But the rest, not really. By lapping all the guys go that are lapping me, I've lost loads of time to Capelli. That was bound to happen. But ultimately, what I think that the ultimate Formula One game would be something like physics from rFactor, AI and quality of life from GP4, and the graphics of the EA games. And then you would have the perfect Formula One game. Yeah, so the GPX patch is something that you will need no matter what. and as I said, it's still not an easy task to get everything to work on a modern hardware, especially if you're using a gamepad or a steering wheel. To be fair, I don't know how well gamepads work on that game. I know that keyboard can be tricky because even if you turn off the assist, it has this thing where steering assist remains on to some extent when you're on a keyboard. On steering wheel you don't have this issue. Oh, couple loose here.
All right, that was a 158.22.
But it can be tricky with the axle's recognition, because sometimes it recognizes the wrong axle, or it recognizes them as a combined axle, which really shouldn't be the case. That's exactly, for example, how it works for me. So I have to set my steering wheel in its driver to combined, and then the game recognizes them as separate. However, if it's on separate by default, then the game will recognize them as combined, which is weird, but at least it works. Going to be overtaken because I let the guy go. Obviously, blue flags don't affect the AI. That's only for me. Oh, so you're not a back marker. So that means I'm getting destroyed by Nocella. Not the proudest moment of my life.
All right, that was a 159.03.
Yeah, so I also use a Trustmaster, and I think for GP4, what I just said, setting pedals to combined, that should make GP4 work with it, to recognize it as two different axles, which is still weird, but at least it works for me. Obviously, due to the game's age, force feedback is lacking, and it's lacking a lot. But the experience itself and an AI that's really good, really raceable, and pays attention, doesn't just crashes into you like a madman. So in terms of racing, it's definitely the best F1 experience up to this day. Wasn't a very smart move. Not faster than Capelli on a straight somehow, while both of us has a jet engine. So that kind of explains why both of us are so badly behind. We're actually more than halfway through the race.
All right, that was a 156.77.
There's just someone smoking in the front. Yep, that's lots of smoke in the front. Somebody out. see who that was. Wouldn't be very surprised if it was a McLaren, as so far the season hasn't been going well for them. So Prost is in the lead. Senna has the fastest lap, 1:45.6. Wow. Yeah.
All right, that was a 1:55.73.
Yeah, so I haven't tried the 1990 mode for EMS, so don't know about that. I have my suspicions in terms of AI capability when it comes to modern F1 on EMS, but I did convert the SRM mode, and I think that might be the one that got converted by others and published. Obviously I don't publish anything I convert because that's all for personal use. But I think it's the same mode that I converted. I had some issues with it, but it's not a bad experience. It's very similar to how it is on rFactor. Obviously not this mod. This one is different. Not using SRM. This one is a little more historically accurate. Epic battle
All right,
for the last
that was
places
a
with Capelli.
1:55.81.
And now we know that. Wait, what? How is Berger down to 16? I'm not sure what happened there. Currently, we're at a point of the season where Eurobrun is actually more reliable of a car than the McLaren. And that's Berger out of the race. So that's another McLaren down once again. I don't think there was a race in this season where both McLarens actually finished. However, when they finish, and especially when Senna finishes, that's usually total domination. Like those who watched Mexico, he lapped the entire field twice. tire there
That
starting
was
to kick in.
155.00.
All right, thanks for dropping by, and I'll see you at the next one. So back to Capelli versus myself. Very epic battle for E16. He's either being lapped or somebody is catching him. I think he's being lapped, which means I'm going to get lapped. Which means I should receive the warning. Yeah, there's definitely someone lapping him. Because apparently Bernard is on P18. He's 40 seconds behind. Yeah, perfect braking, mate. I'm gonna get a drive through.
That was a 159.67.
Because getting lapped is only for me blue flags, not the AI. Thank you very much. We had this yesterday. Can't even keep up with me on the straight. Mate, what am I supposed to do? Stop? You know what? That's exactly what I'm doing. Going to keep Capelli. But, oh well, it is what it is. Going to go down to P17. Unfortunately, nothing I can do against that. Where am I supposed to go while you're actually fighting for position? Also, it's only me who's getting this penalty and not Capelli, who held him up just as much as I did. But yeah, the doesn't get a penalty, so it's something reserved only for the player. If I remembered where the pit entry is, that would be nice. Just go, mate. I'm not gonna fight you.
That was a 203.88.
Well, that's my penalty cleared. Got 15 more laps to go. Let's see if I can catch back up to Capelli. I just might. And De Cesaris is out of the race.
All right, that was a 1:57.58.
Bernard is a wee bit faster than me. And that's a yellow flag and somebody out. That's one of the Tyrrells, I think. Or a Brabham. Either way, one more free position. And, well, not many of us left. Oi, 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 oi. Oh, that narrowly escaped it.
All right, that was a 1:56.39.
We let the professor go. I think that's Mansell and Senna battling behind me. Going to be very interesting to meet them. Maybe Prost can get me a seat with Ligier if I hold them up a little.
That was a 1:54.67.
Easy is out of the race. And every time I start catching Capelli, someone's coming in to lap me, and I lose everything. Annoying. Especially because I know I'm faster than him. Well, not with mistakes like this. Obviously. I think there's only 15 of us remaining. No, 16 because Bernard is still there somewhere. But that Laros is actually a much faster car. Like I remember once I tried it just out of curiosity, and I was more than 2 seconds a lot faster.
All right,
with it.
That was a 1:56.70.
Ultimately, there's only one car on the grid that's, well, not on the grid, but among the teams that's worse than this, and that's live, for obvious reasons, of course. So basically every time I make it onto the grid and manage to race, I'm happy. We're massively outdoing the machinery. I think Bernard is out of the race now.
All right, that was a 1:54.11.
No, Bernard is not out of the race, just slowed down for whatever reason. Yeah, at this rate I'm not going to catch Capelli because I have to let someone go every time. Which is not fair because he doesn't have to do the same. I get a penalty if I don't do it. He doesn't. I mean, that's why he overtook me in the first place, because I got a penalty while battling him under a blue flag.
That was a 1:54.56.
driving the worst car, and the rules only are applied to me. That's what this is. And look, I get around 6.5 seconds on him, and I get blue flagged by someone again. Just keep making the same mistake. Yeah, and I lost it again.
That was a 154.28.
Whatever I built up, you can't race like this. It's just impossible. It would be easier if the same rules were applied on the AI. And they just got the same penalty. But obviously they can hold up faster cars as long as they please. Nothing ever is gonna happen.
That was a 153.59.
I'm getting blue flag from downtown. Okay, that wasn't too bad. I don't care about this mistake anymore. Somehow I lost lots of
That was a
momentum.
155.54.
Yeah, I think I'm, what, 3 laps down? Oh, Bernal is catching me. At least the last couple of laps gonna be interesting.
That was a 152.78. All right, that was a 151.99.
So only 3 seconds away from Capelli. Could be something still. We'll have at least one more lap.
That was a 1:52.42.
Yeah, so this is our final lap. Much better exit from the chicane and quite a bit of overspeed on the straight. Not the cleanest, that will do. That's P14. Alright. Not bad. So we beat Capelli and Bernard. And that's the last two places. So 16 finishers. Just want to see. So Menzel wins, Senna second, Boots and third, that's very good for Williams, Nakajima fourth, ever since he nearly killed me in France, he's doing really good, PK fifth, Warwick sixth, that's very nice, that's his best result on the season, Martin seventh, Minardi just one place shy of the points, Larini 8, Prost 9, not sure what happened there. Gruya 10. And that's a yellow flag. Who's this? Mansell on the... So his car broke down on the cool down lap. And then Gruyard, Brabham, Modena, Nannini, and myself, Capelli, and Bernard. Well, this went just as expected. Obviously can't really do miracles with a car that's not even supposed to be here. And this centuries down on power compared to the rest of the others. So, Prost will be classified, but his engine died on lap 43. Alrighty, well done. This was the German GP. So, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you at the next one. Goodbye.